All right, everybody, we are back again this week for the EAW podcast, and you know what? I'm hyped up this week. This week is huge because this week is Territorial Invasion, the first interpromotional FPV we have of the season. You know, it's always a big event. It's always huge. It's always, you know, really a must-see in terms of FPVs. And this week, I'm also really happy with the person who I'm going to be discussing all the go-home shows for this week, building up into this FPV, because today I have the former Vixen's I have the current Vixen, the women's champion. Getting tongue-tied. I have the current women's champion, the former Empress of Elite, and honestly, one of the best workers in EAW today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm guessing you can judge by the voice. It's Ms. Aria Jaxon, everybody.
Yay! I'm so flattered. I can't believe you said all that. Thank you. I'm so flattered.
Well, you gotta shine up the guest. You know, yes. That's the psychology.
You're Paul Heymaning me. You're hyping me up. I love it.
I do it. Hey, you know what? I wouldn't say it if it wasn't too far from true. How are you doing today?
I'm actually doing really well. Promoing for Territorial Invasion, very standard FPV type stuff. It's a pretty taxing match, but it's a lot of fun to promo for, because I love all the girls that I'm interacting with, so it's great.
Yeah, you know what? I'm honestly excited to see what everybody is going to be putting up as far as promos, as far as, you know, how they're going to really bring out their best, because this is an event that I think everybody would say it's one of those events that you need to bring out your best. Thank you again for coming in and wanting to talk with me, especially kind of at the last minute. Again, we had to call an audible at the line for you football fans. Yeah. You know what you're talking about.
No problem. I actually, with the two different podcast incarnations that EAW has had, I actually haven't been on any, so this is the first for me.
Well, I'm then super honored because you chose mine to be the first, you know, this is your first time on a podcast. I'm super excited.
Of course.
Okay, so I think we're going to start off talking about what happened this week, kind of giving a recap. Guys, if I don't talk about you this week, understand it isn't because I didn't think you guys weren't worthy of talking about, or that you guys aren't working hard. Just know that, you know, I kind of try not to take up everybody else's time too much, and that I try to, you know, talk about subjects that we could really dig into. Definitely would love to talk more about certain aspects of the show, but for the sake of time, you know, just trying to keep to what feels more like a maybe there's a little bit more to talk about, especially at that time. So you ready to recap with me, Aria?
Of course.
Alrighty, let's get into it then. This week we start, like always, on Empire. Very, very solid show, like always, coming out of the Empire Gate. First thing I want to talk about is the return of Savannah Sunshine, and I believe
I love her.
I don't think there's anybody who doesn't love her. I'm a total mark for her gimmick. You know, just like, how do I put it? It's like everything she's done as far as, you know, all the graphics, even the avatar for her forum account is just like, it's just amazing. It's super adorable. How can you not be a mark? And it's such a great contrast to literally everything else that's in this Fed. She isn't...
Honestly, are you serious? She's, as far as just like a sugary, sweet baby face, it doesn't get any better.
It definitely...
She's so great at what she does. She's so great at it, and she's an absolute sweetheart out of character, and this week is my first, like, interaction with her, period, since she's been here in character, so I'm so excited to have her on.
Well, I'm happy to see that she's getting onto this show. I think that certainly says a lot about how much trust they put in her character, especially since this week is her first week back in a while. She had her return match against Bexy Monroe, who she went over. Yep. And it was, first off, I'm just going to say I'm very happy to see her getting the win. I'm very happy to see her getting involved. Excuse me. I definitely hope that I think she's got a lot of the groundwork you need to be a really big breakout star here in the Fed. The only thing I think is maybe just that little extra touch of maybe on the promo boards, not so much in what she's putting out, just how much she's putting out, maybe. Thoughts, Aria?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think with the more recent promos that she's put out, especially with the ones that she did on Vex, those were the best promos that I've seen from her since she joined. And she turned a corner. And I thought it was really fantastic for her to see, to put up what she put up against Vex. I would say, yeah, definitely as far as volume, like I know in EAW we emphasize quality over quantity, but still, like seeing a little bit more from her, maybe 2 or 3 a week, would go a long way.
Definitely. And again, we say that because, I think I forget who it was who said it, but, you kind of need like 3 promos usually to get across your points. You need that sort of output at least to kind of get your points across and really kind of contextualize. And really, the more you put out, usually it's, you usually see the returns. I think everybody here would love to see her get, a little bit more, getting further ahead, than... I absolutely would. And not just on Empire, but in EAW as a whole, there's sort of an imbalance with the face-heel ratio. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we need our faces. And Savannah is a perfect, like, better than Bailey, sugary, sweet baby face. When she blows up, she's going to be amazing. I definitely, if she stays consistent and continues to improve, I definitely see her in, like, championship contention and all that shit down the line. She's going to be good. Definitely. Just one asterisk. Don't stick her with the high rollers yet. That'll kill the gimmick. Yeah. That'll kill the gimmick right there.
Yeah.
Anyways, now we talked about Savannah, and she got added on to this, but let's not forget Vexy Monroe coming in and being an addition to her team for Territorial Invasion. Excuse me. Thoughts on these last-minute additions and how they, and how they really add or take away from each team. What are, I know it's your match, but, what are your kind of opinions of how each team has been shaped and balanced?
The last-minute additions are definitely one way, I guess, of keeping us on our toes and letting us know that anything can change at any given time. But I think that there was a lot of care taken with picking these last 2 additions, with picking Savannah and Vex, because they both fit with where they've been placed. Vex, I think the whole vibe that I'm getting from the character and from that, is it wrong to say psycho sign-up, it's a very, like, dark and demented character, and given that Kaylin is, now in the sanatorium, has tapped into that darker part of her psyche, and has been killing it with Lexi, she works well on that team. And Savannah, I mean, I'm a face, but Savannah is a facey face.
Definitely. So,
her being on my team just makes sense, and like I said, I'm so excited that we finally get to interact in scripts because we haven't yet. I think they balance everything out great. I think using this match as a vessel to not just highlight all the girls that were already in the match, but to highlight these 2 who are coming in at the end and making their, FPV debut. Well, not for Savannah, but, getting to shine on this particular stage. Mm-hmm. There's so many benefits to be reaped, and I'm glad they're getting their shot to be a part of it.
Yeah, definitely. Considering... I mean, these teams seem very top-heavy on Empire. I'm not gonna, I'm not to critique it or anything, but there is, like, you have 2 champions on one team, you have their contenders on the other, and really it seems like the top stars are in this match, as they should be for Territorial Invasion. And now you have these other two who can definitely get like the rub. They could get a boost from having this experience, and I'm hoping that everybody brings it. I'm hoping that everybody comes forward with their best effort on this. Speaking about best efforts, I'm gonna kind of give the match of the night, in my opinion, to April Song and Sophia Rose. No offense, Aria. I know you had your own.
No, that's fine. I'm totally I'm not offended in the least. They're both amazing promos. Battle of the Alps.
Definitely, and I really liked how this match started. I don't know what it is, if it's just I'm a mark for the ground game as far as what April Song brings, but I really liked it how it felt. Had this it felt like a match. A lot of times in EAW's, not to critique anybody, not to put anybody down, not to say anything negative, because that's not what I'm about, but sometimes we don't keep it in the frame of a match. We keep it, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't flow quite as well. I really like that here. What were your thoughts, Aria?
April and Sophia is a match with a lot of story to it. I mean, they faced each other during the Specialist Contender Tournament, which was alluded to during the promos. And so there's a little bit of bad blood there. And so whoever it was that wrote the match, I think definitely picked up on some of their history and did a very good job of keeping their respective wrestling styles in mind, with Sophia relying a lot on her kicks and being very technically sound, and with April being his submission savant and having her chain grappling on point. I thought it was a very good match. I'm always a mark for Empire, obviously. There's always great matches, and this one was no exception.
Okay. Now we say that, of course, there was the dusty finish here. I get that they want to build up for the next show. But do you think that maybe this wasn't the right move to go, especially since you have Consuela coming out, for that? Thoughts on this finish specifically, with the double knockout, the double 10 count, I guess you would call it, and then Consuela coming in apparently to check on both girls.
I don't know if I was dumb not to see that coming or what. I think I was really just excited to see who was going to pull through, because I was like, well, if April wins, especially if she gets another submission win, she's gonna assert her dominance as a Specialist champion. If Sophia wins, she's definitely putting herself into the conversation for a future title shot. Then you have the Dusty Finish. Then you have the former champion, who is not done with April, come out. I think, if nothing else, it leaves us not knowing what's going to come next as far as who April is going to contend with for her title. And it could set up a triple threat scenario. It could set up a number one contenders match between Sophia and Consuela. Who knows? I like to be kept guessing. So if nothing else, at least it accomplished that.
Okay. And yeah, so like we said, we both like the match. Interesting predicament how they're gonna move forward. Let's go on and move on and talk about your match versus Alexis. Yeah. Now, like I said, I gave the match of the night to the last bout. I liked this one in spots. I liked it how it started off hot, but it kind of, I don't know what it was. It felt like it kind of just dropped off in the middle, but by the end, it had me back with all the run-in. What were your takeaways from it all? How do you feel that match was laid out?
I think that the match was, I think whenever you have someone who is a champion and who is doing really well, and then you have somebody who's on the come up like Lexi, you're always in that predicament of you want to make the champion look like a champion, and you want to make this up and comer, look like they can hold their own. So that was definitely accomplished. And then you have, with Maddie coming in at the end, you have that bit of storyline progression going toward Territorial Invasion, with my history with Maddie and now us being teammates, and her history with Lexi. I don't really have any complaints about it, honestly. I thought Lexi in her promo kind of brought the woods to me, so I was like, damn, this is going to be close. And it was indeed.
Okay. All right. So that kind of caps off what I had for Empire. Do you have any last words or thoughts about this show before we move on?
No, it was exactly what I was looking for out of, our go-home show. So I'm really proud of what was put together. And I can't wait to see how we one-up ourselves next week with all the fallout from TI.
It's definitely going to be... I'm certain everything is going to have to be a must-watch, after TI. But for right now, before we get to TI, let's talk about Dynasty. Yep. First thing I really wanted to talk about was the return of Hurricane Hawk. He gets
that again.
He gets the win over Ryan Savage, and I don't want to try and mispronounce the name.
Camson? Yeah, I've been pronouncing it Camson.
Camson, yeah.
Since he showed up. So, if that's not what it is, Fred, wherever you are, I'm sorry. But I've been saying Camson.
Okay. What is it like to see somebody coming in? Like, how do you feel like was this the right win to give him right now? Should they have maybe not have done this triple threat? Should they have thrown somebody else in? Feelings on his return and who he went over on?
Okay, I really like Hawk. He's a cool dude. Hopefully he sticks around this time because he literally comes and goes like the seasons. So fingers crossed he sticks around this go around. I kind of feel bad for Ryan, honestly. Ryan and I talked quite a bit, and he has hashed out a lot of his feelings for the latest run with his character with me. And I honestly just hope this loss didn't leave him dejected because he's been trying so hard as of late.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't, put him off that Hawk came out of left field and got a win in his return. There's not really anything to be lost by Camson losing, so I guess he lucked out in that regard.
Mm-hmm. I'll say this. I've kind of been a fan of Ryan since he re-debuted the Savage character. Not to say I wasn't a fan before, but I think I think he has some sort of potential. There's something just waiting to break through, or at least that's how it feels like to me.
I like the direction that he's going in now with the character wanting to earn back people's respect and having this daughter that he's caring for. I love all of the new development, and that's why I want him so badly to stay active and push through and put his nose to the grindstone because he can accomplish so much if he really sticks it out.
Mm-hmm. Definitely agreed. Just, I think we know the type of caliber he is. If you haven't, guys, maybe check out some of his old stuff if you can. But definitely I would hope that Ryan kind of comes back from this one. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing him, back in the hardcore title picture, or maybe even, if somebody would be, I wish he didn't drop out of the tag tournaments. That would have been a great spot to kind of see him kind of climbing back into.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so moving on from his return, let's talk about this. Aaron Fournier gets a big win, in my opinion, over Hall of Famer Lethal Consequences. Yeah, gets it in the middle of the ring right before they're scheduled to have be part of the Divide and Conquer match, I believe. And yeah, I mean, this thoughts on this? Do you think that this is a big sign for Aaron, or is this a bigger sign for Lethal and what's going on with him on Dynasty? Because so far he came up short in the Hardcore Invitational. He's got a place on in the Dynasty Divide and Conquer match, and he's certainly in some good company. But at the same time, you gotta wonder: is this the best use of a former Hall of Fame talent?
I think in LC's position, so long as he's active, he doesn't really have anything to lose. Like, he's done it all and won it all. What is anyone going to tell him? There's not really much to be lost by him. As far as Fournier, I promoted against him for the hardcore title at Fighting Spirit London. He's legit. Mm-hmm. He is one of my favorite, more recent additions to EAW. Him defeating a Hall of Famer and having clash with Nico over the Captain of All briefcase and having been Hall of Fame champion as long as he was and being in this match at TI, it goes to show rightfully how much faith is being put in him by the writers. This is just another match on his belt, a deserved match at that, and there's so much more good shit to be expected from him.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is a workhorse. I know that from having the chance to work with him a couple of times myself. Whew, those promos were not easy to deal with.
He doesn't fuck around. He does not. That's been one of my favorite promo battles that I've had with somebody since I showed up. He's a workhorse. He spits out promo like a Xerox machine, but that's something that you look for in a town who's going to hold a championship or get man-to-man opportunities. You look for somebody who's going to bust their ass, and he does. So, all the props in the world to him.
Okay. Going forward from there, we have a match that I thought was the best for Dynasty. It was the main event, I believe it was Pizza Boy versus not Pizza Boy. It was Eclipse Demos. Forgive me, Demos. I keep calling you Eclipse just because it sounds so much more exotic. Sorry about that. Like Eclipse.
He's gonna hate me.
Yeah, like Eclipse is just Eclipse. Woo. So, anyways, we had.
I'm gonna start calling him Eclipse, and he's going to hate me. So oh well.
Oh boy, I'm gonna get heat now. Anyways, we had Eclipse Demos taking on Nico Borg. It was a very solid match. Then we had the champion, the Pizza Boy, coming out and running in, giving the win to Nico. What are your thoughts on how this is coming together? Certainly there's history with Nico Borg. There's more recent history with Demos for Pizza Boy.
Right.
And I don't know. It's like, do you think that this is kind of like the right feud for him to be in now with Demos, considering that they just had a match a few weeks ago? What are your thoughts on the whole situation?
I think that the dynamic between PB and Eclipse is super interesting because you have Eclipse, who is like this chaotic, almost comic book villain, this cult leader, and then you have PB, who is babyface extraordinaire. Mm-hmm. So the dynamic there is certainly interesting. I think playing off of PB as an underdog face works very well when you have him up against his larger-than-life talent. But he just came off of being Oasis, which is no small feat. So I think it's the right move for the role he's trying to be portrayed in. Him feuding with Eclipse, I can definitely see it. Mm-hmm. Eclipse facing Nico, I was really digging that because these are two of my favorite promos on the roster. Mm-hmm. Nico did not become the Captain of All for no reason. And so they're the bad guys in any given situation, but they're different kinds of bad guys. Nico is obviously like the twisted clergyman, and Eclipse is, again, the cult leader. So, them playing off each other was very fun to watch. I think having PB kind of come and stick his nose in it definitely made sense. So, I'm looking forward to see how that plays into their TI match.
Okay. Definitely, I expect both of those guys to really shine at Territorial Invasion, as far in referring to Demos and Pizza Boy. Certainly, I'm gonna kind of put I'm gonna be having a microscope on that one. So you guys better have your stuff in. We'll be back next week to recap TI. So don't have your stuff in. Moving on from that situation, let's talk about another big match for Territorial Invasion that Dynasty is putting out, and that's the Divide and Conquer match. And we finally kind of got the whole view of the teams now. We had Jacob Sin joining Team Monroe, and what has to be like kind of a double shock kind of for me is, first off, we have Tyler Parker coming out and returning. How exciting is that?
I didn't see that coming. I think now I feel dumb for not having seen it coming, because he's been around in chat, but all the time you see people who are in chat, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're coming back.
Yeah, I mean, and to say this, I mean, he's been in chat for like the past 3 months, yeah. And he didn't show up. He didn't show up at Pain for Pride. He didn't show up at the draft show. He didn't show up on the first week of shows. He shows up a week before TI.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, this is happening. Tyler was born Dynasty when I came in, so in some regards, this is him kind of coming full circle, at least for the time that I've been here. It's definitely a pretty big addition to Team Star. I mean, you counter a Hall of Famer joining Team Monroe and Finn, they counter with a Hall of Famer of their own. So yeah. Now the teams are filled out. It's very interesting to see how they filled out. There's so much bad blood between these two GMs, and then you start dangling, oh, here's this opportunity, and you dangle in front of the collective face of everyone in the match. They're going to tear each other apart. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, definitely. The next reveal, the guy, they kind of teased that it was supposed to be Star Stan, who was going to represent himself in the last spot, but that got the nix. And then, lo and behold, we have Naz Armour coming out.
Yes!
Yeah. Yes, apparently we are getting more at TI. Oh, yeah. What are your thoughts so far on him getting this double booking? Do you think that it might affect his promos in like the next week?
I know that Nas is definitely the kind of dude that plays it smart when he's in scenarios where he has to promo a lot. So given that he probably gets banked and he's in the divide and conquer, given that what he and I have talked about, he's making sure to pace himself. He's not going to burn himself out and kill his brain or get carpal tunnel doing all these promos.
Like I do.
Yeah, I'm stupid and I do that too. It's okay. Just watching how much his stock has risen since last season has been absolutely amazing. And this, to me, entrusting him not only to represent his team at Dynasty, but to keep going at it with a Hall of Famer, speaks to how much faith is being placed in him, and he deserves this opportunity. And I just want to see him continue to keep knocking them out of the park. I've been reading his promos so far, and he's been doing great. So I'm not really worried about him.
Definitely. I mean, I was actually honest, like I've said before, I was surprised he didn't get like the Voltage main event at Pain for Pride. I think they swerved everybody when he didn't get that spot.
You and I both. But right now it feels like there's some. It's hard to say more because, he was already a big part of Voltage, but it just feels like a second wind almost has gotten, kind of pushed into his comeback. Like he had that big time when he was, right up at Road to Redemption, and then he, they did the whole Impact spot. He doesn't tap, but he passes out. Then from there, he he had the 10 eliminations, and you're figuring, okay, this guy's definitely in. And then they take a left turn at Albuquerque, as Bugs Bunny would say. These are things that I've definitely thought. You're not saying anything that I haven't already thought. We're definitely on the same wavelength. Mm-hmm. I have loved this come up that he's had, but I feel like there could have been so much more that was done. Especially, like you said, getting those 10 nominations. What the hell?
Eliminations.
In Grand Rampage, I was like, all right, this is it. My boy's going to PFP. He's going to win the title in his home state. It's lit, and then that didn't happen.
Yeah. Not to say that they didn't put out a good, showing for Pain for Pride 10. It's just, how do you not give the guy who... I'm not sure if this is a record, but it's got to be damn near close. 10 eliminations, come on.
I remember hearing some people say that they thought it was a record. If it is a record, I'm frankly not surprised. I know that him and Aaron having that teaming and that feud and that match, I know that they both loved that and enjoyed that. But having Nas have been in the world title match for both against TFT, I think with the path that he was on would have made so much more sense.
Okay. We'll come back to Naz in a little bit, but for right now, let's kind of flip the page and go on now to Saturday and Showdown. First thing that I want to talk about is the in-ring debut of John Doe. He took on HBG this week, and they had they had a pretty solid match, though. I don't think I was crazy about the finish. What were your thoughts, Aria? First off, I should preface this. Have you gotten a chance to read Showdown yet? Because it came very late.
Yeah, I've been trying to come back to it and read it ever since you asked me to do the podcast. So I'm sort of catching up as we go. The whole feud, I guess, between it's not really a feud. It's HBG and John Doe, and then you have Dub, and then you have Rex McAllister.
Actually, it's the other way around. It's HBG and Dub, the established, versus more up-and-comers in Rex and John Doe. Well, even though we all know who John Doe really is.
We know who John Doe, it's Brian, but then the character isn't.
So I take it, again, it was an effective way to debut the character, but, so again, it was just, I guess, effective. It wasn't anything more or anything less. Would you agree?
Yeah, it was definitely effective as far as the need to insert John Doe right into the frame, like fresh out of the frying pan into the fire. And I guess also him sort of, in a way, taking Dub and HGG's attention away from the world title, because Showdown is very top-heavy, it's a very cluttered game that isn't necessarily a bad thing. But you need to divvy out the time appropriately. So having this feud between Dub and HGG against John Doe, who is pissed them both off, and Rex McAllister, who is pissed them both off, is definitely a way to make effective use of all of their time right now.
Agreed. So again, I just like that, we're kind of getting this mix. I think it really all benefits Rex, to be honest. He's really getting the best out of all of this, because he's, and not that he doesn't, I'm not saying he don't deserve to. I'm not saying that condescendingly. I'm just saying that I think overall the guy who's getting, who kind of has the golden opportunity here is Rex, and he's been doing well, and I hope that he continues with it. Let's see. Moving on from that, I want to talk a little bit about the segment between Theron Nicholas, the High Rollers, and then you have Cage doing their interviews. Any thoughts on this segment where they're doing this interview and then Cage kind of interrupts and he's kind of this man in the middle, which we would see play out a little bit later in the show. Thoughts?
DC is sort of everywhere that I've noticed. It's not a bad thing. I love his character. Honestly, Theron and the High Rollers wasn't ever really a team that I expected to see come together. And I say that because Theron obviously leaving the treatment guard has proven that he'd rather be in shit for himself. He'd rather be just looking out for himself. The High Rollers are kind of shown they don't really fuck with anybody but each other. So that wasn't necessarily a team that I expected to see come about. Once DC showed up, it was kind of easy to connect the dots. I sort of figured out what was going to happen there.
Okay.
But I like it. I enjoyed the segment. I'm excited for all of their respective matches at TI.
Let's see. I'm not sure if Diamond Cage is working. I know that the High Rollers and...
Oh, he's not. No.
Yeah.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
Well, I expect to see him regardless. I'm pretty sure he's going to get somebody with a barbed wire baseball bat, so maybe that was my way of saying that.
Inside that No Way Out match, it could happen, but that's like him waiting under the ring for like 3 hours. Or more.
Bigger things to happen. I mean, that crowd did kind of set on fire an entire Elimination Chamber. So, you know, I am saying that DC is a very creative individual.
Especially when he wants to break into a cage and
that creativity never benefits other people. Never. It's always bad for other people.
Okay. So, and what did you have any impressions coming off from the other interview segment with Jay Walker kind of, you know, being the mouthpiece for Ares, Lannister, and Tiberius? Did you have any opinions as far as that went?
I'm kind of surprised that they were able to, at least in this instance, kind of agree on one dude to speak for all of them, because, you know, none of them ever have any shortage of things to say. But I guess having Jay Walker speak for you adds just this air, this loftiness to it, because Jay Walker is Jay Walker. And that's a hell of a base in the hole for them to have. It makes the whole triumvirate and that much more formidable. I would be worried being up against them if I was me, but, you know, they're on in the high rollers. That's no walk in the park.
Definitely. Honestly, I think it was kind of just because there was more interaction in the latter promo than there was like in the one with Jay Walker. I think that kind of read a little bit better. There was certainly like that little bit of humor from the high rollers. That's always, you know, kind of a, you know, I always like kind of seeing a little bit of that snarky sort of shoot humor kind of in the promos, and so I think that came off as a better segment overall. Yeah. Kind of moving on again. A little bit later on, we saw John McAdams. He would take on Johnny the Macho Man, Nova. But before the match, he's attacked by Ryan Marks, and I know Johnny hasn't been around, so it equaled a squash match. But so far, what are your feelings or thoughts towards the whole McAdams-Marks feud, and so far the overall title reign with the Openweight Championship for Ryan Marks?
I've had a chance to read their promos going back and forth, and those are two people that I enjoy reading what they put out regardless, but them playing off each other has been great. McAdams joining the Sanatorium, I guess, is sort of giving him, like, you know, I wouldn't say a boost, but it's giving him a shot in the arm. I was wondering, you know, with the whole way that the openweight contendership system sort of works, where it bounces from one show to the next, I was wondering who was going to be the next person to take on Marks, and I'm glad that it's McAdams. McAdams is an extremely talented promoter, and I don't know how to say this without stating him, but Ryan Marks is just a force of nature. Terrifying.
I know both guys pretty. You know, I've gotten to work against both guys. Marks is a monster. I know John could be a workhorse, you know, when he sets his mind to it. You know, and I'm honestly, you know, I don't know who to root for. It's hard to, you know, I'm gonna be rooting for John, obviously, but it's I mean, it's kind of like rooting for David against Goliath without knowing the ending.
It's hard. Yes, honestly, it's hard to choose, and I think that Marks felt like there was the expectations were high coming into it, because, you know, he's the inaugural champion. There's never been an openweight champion before. You know, the Hall of Fame title was retired to make room for this championship, and I'm sure he felt an obligation to set the bar high.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that last part.
I'm sorry. What did I say? Oh, he's been promoting accordingly for somebody who wants to set the bar high for future champions.
yeah, when you throw out 4,000 word promos just to get the damn thing, you gotta promo. You gotta be somebody who promos hard. Ugh.
Oh yeah. He's no joke. He's terrifying. But McAdams has been more than holding his own from what I've been able to read so far, and I know the match is going to reflect that, the eventual title match at THCI, so that'll be fun to read.
You know, it's also something that's kind of coincidental. I'm thinking maybe this all got penciled in before everything was set, but so far Ryan has gone through. He went through Mero first. Now he's going through. Now he's going through John McAdams. He went through me to get the belt. It seems like there's this kind of Ryan Adams versus the Sanatorium kind of thing going on, and it's very low key. I'm surprised that they don't kind of talk about it. How this one guy has kind of cut through, 2-3 guys already within this thing. And granted, Showdown is a show that doesn't have any Sanatorium presence thus far. Any thoughts on that whole situation?
I'm not even going to front, I hadn't even thought about that before until you mentioned it, and I'm like, wow, now that I think about it, I'm like, he has really been in the Sanatorium's crosshairs for a minute now. Yeah, like you said, Showdown doesn't have any Sanatorium presence as of now, but, new members pop up like roaches, so, that could change. For all we know, that could change in the near future, and then you could have a Sanatorium person help his act on Showdown. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it's on purpose or what. I don't know if the writers planned this, but it's pretty cool continuity.
To kind of see him go from one to the next.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't really think it was planned. I think it's just sort of a testament to the sort of people that are in the Sanatorium. Like, you guys, so many of you were able to promote at a certain level and put yourself to the forefront and put yourself in mind to be title match in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And that's something I will say. I've always kind of liked that. There was always sort of, at least since I've been a part of it, there's always been solid workhorses and people who put out effort within the entire thing, within the entire Sanatorium in any branch, and I think it's interesting, something that should be kind of talked up a little bit more, played up a little bit more, something that could lead to something a little bit, down the line, because, again, you do have this one guy who's gone through, a few members already, and, we do have Empire, who's going to be taking on Ryan Marks from Empire. That's always a question. Will they use that to hype up that part? Will that be the theme for the next thing, or will this even be something that happens if Marks cashes in? Those are questions that I think would be kind of interesting to ask. Let's see. So there's that situation. Another one I wanted to bring up was we talked a little bit about Naz earlier. I wanted to talk a little bit about the CM Banks feud itself. Typically, in the time I've been here, we don't really rematch that often. We certainly don't do it, back-to-back pay-per-views. We tend to give that all some space to breathe out, or we search out a new matchup. Here, this has been, I think it's been a kind of a trend going on Showdown, that it's been like more like they've kept the feuds that started the season kind of going and trying to get the most mileage out of those. What are your thoughts as to the overall feud of Banks versus Naz, and what are your feelings towards the whole, the kind of, I guess, episodic, if you will, nature of the Showdown feuds and how they've been kind of just rolling along?
I'm happy that Naz is sort of getting this chance to prove that not only can he pull double duty at an integrated FTV, but he has a huge interaction with somebody like Banks who, founded this place. So, obviously he's a pretty high stature. I think it just goes to, I know we talked about this previously, how much faith is being placed in him, and he's doing a pretty spectacular job of taking out his time, his effort, and energy to promoing for it all, and putting in effort, and wants to be involved. And I enjoy seeing how their interaction sort of evolved, because at first it was like, friendly competition, just an up-and-coming talent who wants to put themselves on the map by going through an established talent. And then it got a little more personal, and there was some venom and some bad blood there with that segment a few weeks back, where they said something to the effect of, I guess Aria got the better girl too, or something like that, and then slapped the shit out of him. That was amazing. That was great. So with this loss of Del Diablo, I know it gives Nas more of a reason to want to come back and get that win back, and to prove that he can go over this legend.
Okay. And it's certainly been an interesting feud. It's certainly been built up. I though, because of the nature of how Dia del Diablo was structured, like, we did the stipulation, we did the gimmick match first, and then it looks like we're doing just a straight match. That's kind of throwing me off about this part of the feud, but overall, I think it's been pretty damn impressive. I like the guy who's trying, it's kind of like the then versus now. It's the established legend versus the guy who's saying, look, I'm what's here right now. And I really, really have enjoyed it so far. Speaking of enjoying, let's talk a little bit about the main event, because that was a pretty solid match that I enjoyed. You had that sort of like Cage being in the middle. He's obviously against Jay Walker, Aries, Lannister, and Tiberius, but he's certainly not with the other three. He's not with Theron and the High Rollers. We had that. We had the Lumberjacks coming in. Very well written match, and I'll tell you this: I totally bought hook, line, and sinker when they did the Jay Walker run-in. I thought that was going to be the finish, and I was pleasantly surprised when nope, that's not it. We're still gonna keep going. What were your thoughts about this Lumberjack match, Cage versus Lannister?
It was a fun match. I'm happy to see DC get the win. It certainly, as far as how Lannister conducts himself as a character, I know it's not throwing him off to have a loss on the go-home show going into TV, but like you said, it sort of plays up the dynamic of DC being this middleman, because he really doesn't fuck with anybody in the triumvirate, and he's not friends with Theron or the High Rollers. He clearly doesn't think nearly as well with them as there's others, but DC wants to get what he is. He wants to make the triumvirate pay, and I feel like it's not more than that. As this progresses forward, and as subscribers get navigated, it's not what matters to him in this way. And so it'll be fun to watch that play out.
Okay.
DC's crazy.
Let me ask you your opinion on something. How would you prefer for this kind of to go? Personally, I think it's a little too obvious for a triple threat. I think that's kind of where they're wanting to go, but part of me wants to kind of see a left turn at Albuquerque and maybe see like a guest referee or a double guest referee, where on one end you have like Jay Walker, being a guest referee, and then DC also being a second referee, one of those, kind of throw. I don't know. Those are things that I didn't even think about. That's just more variables to add to this match already. I think the dual referee would definitely be an interesting development. And that's in case you're listening, Rob. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was like, it'll be an interesting development, but that's only if they can not try to beat the shit out of each other long enough to actually initiate a match.
Well, I'm thinking it's probably going to be something similar to like what they would do in like 99 or 98, where they would kind of have like those, like, oh, well, we have two referees and we know one is a heel and one is a face, but the face one still couldn't give a damn. You know, I think I'm trying to think of a good example. I think there was maybe one where like a Raw where Shawn Michaels and Shane McMahon were refs. I think there was one where there was a pay-per-view where Shane and Vince were the refs, kind of. Yeah.
So yeah, we never know. That could be how it plays out. That would be very interesting to see. I'm excited to see where it goes next, because this feud against progressively gets nastier and nastier. There's so many overlapping wires to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting feud, and this is where we're gonna put a pin in it for Showdown. We're gonna move on now to Voltage. Now, just out of curiosity, did you happen to notice that Carson's segment wasn't on?
I did notice that it wasn't there, and I was kind of disappointed because I wanted to see what was going to happen to him.
Yeah, me too.
The name was so interesting. It was like Carson Ramsey gets fed to the wolves, and I was like, what does that mean? I was thinking,
well, obviously it's obviously probably a Wolves Den reference. You know, Kenny is the general.
I want to see like what that entails exactly. Like, what are y'all up to? But,
yeah. You know, I wouldn't mind if it was something that was just kind of like. Like a kind of a joke kind of thing that they put up there, like he got fed to the wolves and then now he never shows up again. Well, where is he? He got fed to the wolves. No. Or it's something like they wait out a few weeks and then they reveal, well, when we said we were feeding him to the wolves, we meant, you know, he is one of us now, or some shit like that.
Ooh, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
Okay. Now. That's one thing, but really, I think Voltage started off. I think I'm going to say this right now. As good as all the shows were this week, I think Voltage was kind of my favorite this week. It was kind of promo. It was kind of segment heavy, but I'll say this. You know, I think it put out a pretty damn good show, and it started off with the shocking news: Chris Elite is suspended. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So now we have kind of an interesting thing here where I don't know how they're trying to play this, how they're going to run it. I mean, this feud with Chris and you know, DDD, it seems like it's building somewhere, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking there's something more like this is all Kenny Drake just doing shit to screw with everyone. And, you know, he's intentionally, you know, misleading us with the phone calls, with the suspension, with saying he's out here because, you know, on the orders of the chairman. What were your thoughts about the segment, Aria?
Watching how Chris Lee has conducted himself in this whole feud with me has been absolutely hilarious. His segments have been so funny. I think the segment and having him opposite DDD is sort of doing what is going on with Miles and Banks, where it's like you're getting a rub by being trusted to be in a program with somebody of this caliber, someone of this stature and effect. I don't know what the ending is going to be, though, so I'm looking forward to seeing what that is, because, you know, I was sort of looking forward to seeing MK, you know, Interwire champion, and that didn't go, down how I thought it would, but that's something that they were able to play off of, where it's like, it's TV's fault, holding me down.
Interestingly enough, it seems like they're casting Elite kind of in the face role of this whole thing, or at least a face who feel, you know, I hate to use this example, but kind of like the Triple H versus CM Punk thing, where both have points and both are, you know, I guess kind of aligned into the face side of things, but, you know, they're just kind of at odds with each other, and you have the authority thing. So I'm just thinking about like how this kind of like being cast in this light compares to, say, about a year ago when he was a new breed champion and he had that face turn. How are you feeling so far about the whole overall character of Chris Elite right now?
I love what he's doing now. He's definitely somebody that I always find myself rooting for because he's been working so hard in the time that I've been here to remain consistent and to get better and to prove that he's worthy of the opportunity that he's been given. Where the character's at right now, I think it's sort of a natural progression of things. I think the one thing that's always been a constant in the Chris Elite character, regardless of whether he's been a face or heel, has been that aggression, has been that, refusal to give up, and I'm going to get mine no matter what. And so him being up against Easy and saying, I'm not scared to get in your face, I'm not scared to cut you out, I'm not scared to come at you directly, but I'm going to see what's going to be. To me, that totally makes sense. That seems like something this character would do.
All right. We've kind of talked about different guys getting the rub here tonight. What I kind of noticed on this show, on this episode of Voltage, was we had Anthony Lionheart going over Aaron Mislev. We had El Ironico going over Carlos Rosso, and what some might also kind of call an upset, you had Monogosa, Fudge, the new breed champion.
Yeah.
He, even though he's the champion, it's still a little surprising to see him go over Keelan Sitanich just a week before, before the match at TI, the 4-on-4 Ironman. Thoughts on kind of this night of where we're seeing these upsets? What were your thoughts on everything?
I think, it kind of takes me back to the draft last year, where when everything was over and everyone was looking at the draft stage, they're wow, Voltage got a lot of new dudes, Voltage got a lot of young guys with high upside. So I think that reputation is pretty good Voltage since, and it's been the show where the young guns can take off, where you can make a name for yourself. And I think that is something that was driven home on this past show. You have somebody like Anthony going over somebody who was established, a former world champion, Aria. You have El Ironico character going over someone as established as Carlos. With Moon Juice and Keelan, they're both new breed guys. And Moon Juice, I'm going to call it Moon Juice. I don't give a shit how he pronounces it. I'm calling him Moon Juice. Is the new breed champion. And so, like I said, he's a title holder right now, but him going over Keelan, and Keelan leading the team that's opposing him, was weird. But now to look at it, both teams casted walks on this past episode. So,
now I do think one thing has to be prefaced. I'm not sure, but I don't believe that Aaron promoed for this match with Anthony. No, he did not promo. How do you think that affects things going into this weekend against TLA?
I did promo, or he has promoed, I should say, against TLA.
But do you think that makes anybody a little bit kind of gun shy? I mean, not to say that one thing will destroy years worth of trust, but what I'm trying to say is, do you think that does that make even more of a reason that they might push for TLA this Saturday?
Looking at it from a booker perspective, I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea. We'll have to see. We'll see how things play out at the end of the week on the promo page, and we'll see how Oasis feels about that.
Okay, fair enough. Sticking kind of with this whole new breed, not new breed, the 4-on-4, we had the segment where they all just got into this wild, chaotic brawl towards the end. I really enjoyed this segment. Did you go mad?
No, I love wild shit like that. I love fights. I live for drama. That was great. I think it's just sort of I didn't expect so much bad blood, honestly, because, you know, Keelan and Carlos don't fuck with each other for obvious reasons. That's been well documented as of late. But with so many of the other guys who were coming in, you know, they didn't really have any reason not to fuck with each other. Like, Apocalypse is there because he likes to hurt people. And Lars doesn't really fuck with Apocalypse, and he said he doesn't really care about anyone on his team. So it's kind of funny to see how you have so many dudes who have gone from essentially either A, being in this match for vendetta, or B, not having anything to really gain or lose, seeing them go from not giving anyway about each other to trying to murder each other in a brawl. That's great.
You know, you mentioned the segment where Lars said he really didn't care about anybody, and then he kind of like saves Keelan, I think, doesn't he? Like he catches him. Yeah.
Maybe you don't have a heart of coal. Yeah, no, he definitely does. He doesn't care.
Another thing I found it really odd is that how like McQueen kept kind of like going in and out of everything. Like at first he's just like, fuck this, and he's out of there, and then he comes back, and then like I think he gets laid out, but then he comes back. It was.
He doesn't know what he wants. He doesn't know what he wants. It's okay. He's confused. It's fine.
He's pickle mongoose. What can you expect?
Cody Marshall's been hilarious. He doesn't know what's going on at all. He doesn't know where anybody is from.
You know, and then like McQueen, you know, he's like, you know, he's like, well, I'm actually from the same town you're in. I'm pretty sure we went to the high school together. And Cody's like, no, I actually, two things. First off, I'm becoming a Cody Marshall fan. Even, you know, over the past few weeks because of this feud with Ironico, just seeing that you know, how his character has been spun out, and I also want to see a tag team, Munogosa and Cody. I think that
would have a team hell no dynamic for sure.
Definitely, but I think they could be entertaining as hell. I think both guys are great promoters, and I think they could make it work, especially if the same kind of care and attention that was done with some of the other segments that's been done with them over the past few weeks, if that could continue, if they keep them in good hands, and they keep, you know, working it right, I think it would be an awesome idea for them. Any thoughts? We've talked a lot about kind of Carlos and well, his team a little bit. Any thoughts in particular as far as anything that stood out from Team Keelan? Anything on that side?
Team Keelan, I was about to say, I was like, it's such a random assortment of people, but they both are, so that's totally null and void.
Well, everybody's kind of been feuding with each other. You had Finnegan Wakefield, who almost got the New Breed title, so he still has that dynamic with him. You have Ironico against Cody Marshall, and you have Lars Greer against Apocalypse, because they've been throwing hands for the past few weeks.
Oh, they have. Lars clearly doesn't give a shit about his life and well-being, because who fights with Apocalypse willingly? It's crazy. I think it's sort of, Keelan is, in this scenario, the perfect team captain. So if you look at someone who's established as Carlos, and he has that really war general feel to him. Mm-hmm. You look at him, that he's like a dude who can command a war, or a dude who can send his troops in whatever direction. Keelan, I think he's younger, he has like this boundless energy, he's sort of determined to get his revenge and put Carlos on his ass and lead his team to victory. Mm-hmm. And I love that.
Okay. Man, I hope that the match is as good as this segment. I really do. If anybody's listening, if the guy who's writing this or a girl who's writing this is listening, please study this segment and take away what was like the best little chunks and parts of it, and please do that. Make this fun, wild, chaotic brawl, because I've noticed even sometimes in our matches, even in the wildest matches, you know, either we drag on for one guy too long, or we shift focus too quickly to from what's happening left and right. This felt like it really had a good pace as far as when it changed up what was happening and how long it stood with everybody. Would you agree?
I agree. I have high hopes for this match. I have high hopes for the way that Oasis is going to handle it and still give people and give everyone their shine and give this feud, to sort of, assuming it is a blow-off match, give this feud the blow-off match that it deserves for all these weeks of build, all these forward, all these, like you said, fun, well-thought-out segments, all these intertwining rivalries. I'm excited to see how it all plays out. I'm also
kind of, I don't know if I should tell this here on this show, but I'm hoping for one spot. I'm hoping that somehow they could, I think they're in a cage, but I'm not sure. I'm thinking that they're in the cage for some reason, maybe because I'm used to the War Games or whatever, but I'm expecting kind of for maybe Cody or Apocalypse to be laid out on the table, and then you have maybe Ironico and Keelan up on the top of maybe a cage or something like that, and Keelan's and the crowd's all jump, land on him, put him through the table, and Ironico's shaking his head no, please, no. And Keelan's I am sincerely sorry for this, man. And he shoves Ironico off, and he hits the perfect splash and goes to the table.
Oh my god! That would be great. I don't think they're anything. I think it's just the Iron Man tag stipulation, Table Invasion tag stipulation. But that still provides a lot of room for the creative spot. And yes, for comedy stuff like that, because everything Ironico does is funny, whether it's intentional or not.
Yeah. Of course, that probably isn't going to happen because, they did the spot where he willingly jumped off the ladder. I think, or did he?
Ironico won't do anything. Is there anything he won't do? We don't know yet.
Okay, and to kind of wrap up Voltage, we had our sort of main event segment where we had the champion, Jamie O'Hara. He invited his challenger, Cameron, called her out for a 5-minute exhibition match. I wasn't really a fan of this. I don't think it did anybody any real favors the way, because Jamie dominates for the entire 4 minutes, and then Cam lays him out with a low blow. I thought Jamie came off a little bad last week, and now Cam just comes off a little too weak for my liking on this. It's I don't think that's what we're going to see at TI, but I don't think this really helped sell that feud. Thoughts on the segment area?
I think it was a change. It was definitely sort of a change of pace from their segments ever since Cam got announced as the #1 contender, because a lot of their interactions since then have been where she bashing the face, and it's relied on a lot of segments like that. So I think this is definitely an effort to switch it up a little bit. An exhibition match was definitely not something that would come to mind initially. I think this is, in a way, sort of rehashing the dynamic from their Paper Pie 9 match, where Cam was a bad guy going into that. I remember attacking Jimmy on Showdown the week before. I think Jamie is sort of just I want to keep my title. It doesn't matter if it's you. And Cam is showing that she's not scared to get down and dirty or cheat or hit her own boyfriend in the face.
Well, you wouldn't be afraid to smack Aaron around, I'm sure.
Hopefully that never happens with R9. Let's hope it never gets to this point.
Okay.
It never ends well.
Okay, but getting back to JB and Cam,
I personally, I don't know if it's because I'm a chick or what, I am sort of a sucker for melodramatic shit, and this has definitely filled up my soap opera quota. I love the drama, I love all the mixed emotions, I love how realistic this is. It's showing that they both felt these feelings of conflict, and they wanted to try to balance their personal relationship with how badly both of them want to be champions.
Okay.
Showing that it's not all sunshine and roses. It's not perfect. They're disagreeing. They're butting heads. They're getting into it. So I love that aspect of it.
Certainly an interesting feud. Like I said, I wasn't a fan of this. Because I really didn't think it did any favors with the low blow. After the 4 minutes of being dominated. I wasn't, and I didn't think Jamie came off that great in the week before. Cam looked pretty good, but not Jamie. Conceptually it sounds great. I'm kind of like, maybe it's just me, but I'm kind of questioning like the beat-to-beat executions. That's my deal. So
I think it's sort of.
No, go ahead.
I think it's sort of the same challenge that any writer is facing when they're building up a strong champion and a strong challenger, sort of trying to swap the momentum back and forth, and it's just so that one doesn't have the ball in their court the whole time. So like you said, this week it was a wash. In previous weeks, Cam has looked better, Jamie's looked better. I think it's sort of an effort to try to keep us on our toes. They show us that momentum really isn't firm in anybody's corner, it's anybody's game.
Okay. Well, I think that's going to do that. That's going to be our cutoff for Voltage. We're actually going to look forward to TI. Do you mind kind of sharing your predictions with me? I'll kind of list them off one by one, and you could tell me who you think's going over. Is that cool?
No, not at all. Let's talk TI.
Okay, let's start with this one. Extreme Rules Tag Team Match. We have HBG and Dub. They'll be taking on John Doe and Rex McAllister. Who do you see going over?
I'm gonna sound so bad. I gotta go with my girl HBG and Dub because they are out for revenge. They have every reason in the world for to rip Rex and John Doe's heads off, and I think they might fuck around actually do it.
I'll disagree with you on this one. I'll kind of go the opposite way because A, you have new blood on the opposing team, and B, you never bet against Brian.
You know what? I can't even disagree with you. Those are valid points, especially the latter one.
Yes. 4-on-4, 30-minute Ironman tag team match. We have Team Carlos, represented by Carlos Razzo, Monogosa McQueen, Cody Marshall, and Apocalypse Demos. They'll be taking on Team Keelan, which is Keelan Setonich, Finnegan Wakefield, Lars Guerrero, and El Ironico. Who do you see?
My money's on Team Keelan.
I am going to agree, but I'm pulling very hard for Carlos. I'm a fan of his,
I adore them both. There's absolutely no bias in the way. I adore them both. They're two of my closest friends here. I see Keelan, sort of getting revenge because he got his head put through a car window and his girlfriend got punched on live TV when he wasn't there. I'm just like,
that's just good.
He's a lot of aggression to get out.
But as far as I'm saying, yeah, I could see Keelan getting it. It's probably the the money favorite. But I'm gonna be sentimental. But part of me is gonna be sentimental and root for Carlos. So I'm gonna officially pick Keelan.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Going on, Divide and Conquer match. This is the winning team. Their general manager stays. The losing team's general manager goes. Team Monroe, which is Scott Oasis, Lethal Consequences, Nico Borg, Scott Diamond, and Jacob Sin. That's like a team of Hall of Famers.
Indeed.
Taking on Team Star. That's Tyler Parker, Nazar Moore, Target Smiles, Darkane, and Aaron Fournier. Definitely Tyler is a Hall of Famer, but we got more up-and-comers on there. So again, kind of this thread of the old versus the new sticking around, especially with Naz. Who do you see this being Star Stan becoming the solo, or do you see it his tenure already over?
I don't know. It's tough to call. I can't imagine Star's, time as a TM being over so soon. You never really know.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I don't want to see Star outfit so soon, and Monroe is so easy to hate. I gotta go with Team Star.
For the fact that because Naz is out of the title picture, as long as Monroe is the general manager, I'm gonna have to go with Team Star to pick up the win on this one, because I really want to see Naz versus Demos. That is a match I've been craving. That's a match I've been craving. Speaking of Naz Armour versus CM Banks round 2.
I'm predicting that Naz gets his win back.
Oh, well, I'll agree right there. EAW Openweight Championship contested between the champion Ryan Marks against the challenger John McAdams.
This one was tough to call. As I've already mentioned, they're both incredibly talented and super hard workers. But Ryan Marks is nothing short of unstoppable. And I'm banking on him to retain.
Now, see, this is a rock and a hard place because the way I see Ryan Marks is the same way I see Drago from Rocky IV. I'm hoping that like John is training in the snow and he stands on top of a mountain screaming Marks, and there's like 80s techno music or something or whatever.
He needs to go full on Rocky because, like I said, Marks is terrifying.
Yeah, and damn. That if you're listening, either one of you guys, work as hard as you possibly can because you don't want to give a point to the other. You surrender no quarter. Here we go. National Elite Championship. We have the champion Stark defending against P.O.P., the Prince of Phenomenal. Who do you see it? Is it the Hall of Famer, or are we still going to see Stark carrying the title going into the next month?
I'm kind of stuck here because as of now, the last time I checked, Stark hasn't actually promoted back yet.
Oh shit.
So hopefully Stark responds back, because if Stark does, I definitely see Stark retaining. Stark is a very talented promoter. With P.O.P., it would be for a hell of a comeback story, because he came out of that murderer's row of the contenders match in the first place. Based on what's going on right now, I'm going to give it to P.O.P.
You know what? I've heard that Pop got the double promo on Stark.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's still like 3 days to promo, and it's never, and like we said, it's never really quantity, it's quality. I think that I'll say tentatively Stark as long as he gets a promo in. At least one.
It's certainly not to the point where Stark can't make up ground, because there's time left. And Stark beat, workhorse like Rex to win a national league title in the first place. So I wouldn't put anything past him. I would enjoy seeing him extend his reign.
Alright, number one contender. I know you're for the World Heavyweight Championship. TLA versus Aaron Mislav in an I Quit match. I know you probably got some sentimental things. Who first off, who is your heart saying and who is your head saying?
I am so biased. Like, I can never vote against Aaron ever.
Okay.
Ever.
Yeah, let me take a moment to apologize to Aaron. I keep calling him Aaron. Don't, he's in good company, with who I mispronounce names of.
For sure. Yeah, that's definitely one way to look at it. I have so much enjoyed seeing his TLA interactive script. TLA is another favorite of mine. He's able to, he has such funny promos. He's so funny. Not everybody can write funny promos and also be like a serious threat. You can actually win matches and shit. So TLA does that masterfully. I would love nothing more than to see Aaron win this match. If he didn't and this is, TLA's time to shine, and finally punch that ticket into the world title team for real this time, then I wouldn't be very mad. And Jamie TLA, Jamie TLA Part 2 would be pretty fun.
Well, we might be looking at Jamie at TLA versus Cam. That might throw in an entirely... or even if there's a draw, maybe a triple dart. Who knows? I gotta say, TLA, he's worked so hard, and I've seen him come so far along. I've been rooting for him pretty much since the day I kind of joined up. I'm gonna take TLA because I'll say this: it's been his time to shine since the year began. It really has been.
He's had so many near misses, with the world title match against Jamie, and then I thought there was a chance he could take home, Grand Rampage, and then of course TV wins that, and I'm thinking, okay, then he's got Castle Ball locked down, and then Zico wins, and he's had so many near misses.
I think, yeah, I mean, like I said, by now it's time to give him his due. Did everybody hear that out there writing? Yeah. So, I'm taking TLA. Answers World Championship match. Eclipse Demos versus the champion, the Pizza Boy. Who you thinking?
This is so hard. This is also definitely a matter of heart versus head. I adore Eclipse. That's my Empire Booker. I've known him pretty much since I joined up. Mm-hmm. And he has such a masterful grip on his characters. He's so smart and has such a good mind for all of this. And he's a force of nature on the promo page. He's phenomenal. He is probably the most perfect face I've ever seen in all of my time betting. He's the perfect underdog thing. He's incredible. As much as I would love to see Eclipse win, I have this gut feeling that he's going to extend his reign. Possibly get tapped in on by Nita.
Okay. Let's see. It's hard for me to say that 3 months into his win, PB is going to job, or 2 months into his win, he's going to job the title out here. Especially since he did just get over on Scott Oasis. Anything can happen. I've been wrong before, but and I'll be rooting like hell for Eclipse the whole way. But my head can't logically put, if it's a betting line, I can't put the money down on Demos this time. The one time I can't do it.
Right, and I think, with everything that PB went through to get the title back in the first place, he finally gets the belt in his hand at RTR, and here comes fucking Lannister. Mm-hmm. And then this whole climb of him, this arduous climb back up the mountain, the days of his life, where he gets finally paid off for the TSP. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he made it his signature has been toppling these larger-than-life Scott Oasis team, Scott Diamond, not too long ago. I feel like Eclipse is another one for him. And no, Eclipse won't make it easy, but I don't see PB losing right now. I don't.
And I mentioned already how I want to see Naz versus Eclipse, with Eclipse as the champion. But I think it might be just as well if we were to see PB versus Naz. That also sounds like a hot ticket right there.
Right.
Okay. Going on to the winner-take-all, no-way out match for both the EAW championships and the EAW Tag Team Championships. We have Theron Nicholas and the High Rollers versus the I can't pronounce this word. Triumvirate. Thank you very much. The Triumvirate of Tiberius IV, Aries Vendetta, and Lannister. Who are you taking on this one, Aria? Who are you letting your...
Matches like this are the reason that I don't answer prediction threads, because I never know who the fuck to predict. Mm-hmm. I'm so indecisive on everything. This is so hard to call. Mm-hmm. Because, like you said earlier, don't bet against Brian. How can I possibly bet against Jay, Robbie, and Kim on one team. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, on the other side, you have an Xavier alt, which speaks for itself, and you have the High Rollers, who have pretty much been, they have been the entire tag team division since, like, January.
Mm-hmm.
They are the tag team division. It's just them. And, you know, I don't want to see the High Rollers lose here and lose their titles. I would love to see them go on and break some sort of record. At the same time, I don't see Tiberius losing just yet either. But
go ahead.
For the sake of not being able to bet against his murderer's role to triumvirate, I'm.
So you're going Tiberius, Aries, and Lannister.
Yeah.
I'll agree. Mostly because they just started the stable just now, and having a world champion and then having him drop the title a month, less than a month after the stable has been formed, I don't see that happening. The High Rollers are an excellent tag team, but I think, they've kind of done everything they can do as champions for the moment. Like right now we have, I think, 9 teams. If they were to get thrown into the Tag Team Grand Prix, we would have an even 10. And we could figure out things from there. So I'm taking Aries, Tiberius, and Lannister simply because of the dynamics of the story. And then how I don't see, I don't see a new stable losing this quickly all of its power. Okay. Then we have the World Heavyweight Championship match. Jamie O'Hara, the champion, defending against his girlfriend, Cameron Avea. Who are you taking for this one?
This is so hard. Personally, I see Jamie being champion for a long time. I wouldn't be surprised if his reign went into like early 2018 if we saw him champion for like King of the Winners only.
Well,
so I'm putting my money on Jamie. I love Cameron to death, and I don't doubt that she could possibly be the first woman to be a world champion. I just don't think it's gonna happen.
Keep in mind, we do also have, like, the winner of this match gets the winner of Aaron versus TLA, and
right.
And like I said, if I'm thinking TLA, I'm thinking whoever goes up against TLA is probably going to lose a title. So I'm seeing Jamie here, but I don't see him going past TLA whenever that match happens.
With either the possible champions and either the possible contenders, there's a lot of story to be told either way. Aaron and Jamie have, I guess, bad blood from when they were both chasing after the EAW title on SHOWDOWN early part of last year. Cam and TLA faced each other for the Interwire title on SHOWDOWN as well. Cam and Aaron don't really fuck with each other in character because Cam and I hate each other in character. Jamie and TLA faced each other for the World Heavyweight title at Burning Desire earlier this year. So there's a lot of story to be told with people wanting them. But I do expect Jamie to walk out of this one.
And I agree with you there. One last match, 5 versus 5 tag team match, Team Aria versus Team Caitlyn. Any predictions there?
Am I gonna bet against myself? Am I crazy?
I said kind of the same thing with Rex. Every time I ask this question of somebody who's for their own match, I always expect them to answer back with like the Rocky 3, like Clubber Lang, like prediction, pain. That's what I'm expecting.
I mean, honestly, I can't even get over my head and say, we got this shit, because it's so evenly matched on both sides. Caitlyn is pretty much my greatest first rival. Like, she and I have probably spent the majority of our careers fighting for the same titles and running side by side, anything of that nature. It's honestly too tough to call. But because I love my team and I love myself, I'm going to say Team Aria.
You know, it's hard to bet against two champions, especially when one is as awesome as you have been. Before we wrap up anything, I just want to say thank you. I know you take, this is, a big FPV, and you're taking time out of your day to kind of like sit down and talk to us. I just got one last question before we wrap up here. What's the match you're looking forward to the most come the 26th?
It is a stacked card, so I'm going to take my match out of the equation, take Orange's match out of the equation. I'm gonna have to say the winner-take-all match.
Winner-take-all?
That's gonna be a demolition derby. I'm so ready because there's so much at stake. You have 3 titles up for grabs, so that's gonna be great.
Well, 2 titles technically.
Well, yeah, 3 separate belts, 2 championships, exactly. Yeah.
1 match.
Yeah.
You gotta sell it right. Well, thank you very much, Aria. Thank you so much. Guys, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please go ahead, leave them, subscribe, leave them on the forums, leave them on the YouTube. DM them to me even, Thank you very much to our special guest this week, Aria Jaxon, for coming out and, chatting with us. Do you have any last comments before we call it a night?
Well, thank you for having me, number one. Like I said, this is my first outing on any of the various incarnations of EAW podcast, and I think you've done it better than just about anybody else.
I
had a lot of fun hashing out, this week's shows and upcoming CI with you, and hopefully this isn't the last time we do a podcast together.
Certainly. I gotta do one of those, an interview show with you now, somewhere down the line whenever you got a free moment, and it isn't like a massive, interbrand FPV.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
One day, I'm totally penciling that in on my calendar for whatever.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Aria. For everyone here at the EAW podcast, we're gonna call it a night. Thank you all for joining in. We're out. And by the way, here's one last question. I'm thinking about adding some theme music. Why don't you guys text or comment what would be an awesome theme song for this podcast? Until the next time, thank you all. For Aria Jaxon, I'm SHowster26. Thank you all and have an awesome night.